Right, so thanks, Nigel, for the intro while we're waiting for this. I did go to Penn, and we didn't really spend a lot of time in class, which, it all worked out. Like Nigel was saying with the vending machines, it's all about pushing limits. We were very focused on just building things and doing stuff that nobody had really done, and we sort of were a little crazy about it. And so I joined up with these other students at Penn, and we built this thing that basically we didn't really know what we were building. We just had a good set of people, really smart people, who really enjoyed what they were doing. And we just started looking for ideas. We stopped going to class, and we started pitching ideas that we thought would be cool. And we ended up finding one after a few tries. It took a little while because we started with something that was using social network data, and that just didn't work. Then we tried a couple other things, also didn't really work. We were paired up with some stat professors at Wharton to optimize ads. That kind of worked, not really well though. And in the process of doing that, we found out that we needed to be able to basically buy ads to be able to optimize them, and we found out that there was no really great way to do that on these exchanges. So we decided we would just give it a try. And we focused specifically on the buying. We said we'd come back to the optimization. We still will one day. I want to talk a little bit about the good old days of Invite Media, because it's kind of a fun story. But I also want to talk about how it's a good example of what you can do when you have a really great team of people, and basically why I think that Jamaica is a great place to do software and something like this, because we didn't have anything really special. We were in Philadelphia, and our clients were in New York and Texas. There was no geographical boundary here, and we just got a whole bunch of people together who we didn't have the fancy degree because we didn't go to class. A couple of people actually didn't get the degree. I finished a little early and got mine, but anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about that. And basically, to really start the story, I have to go back pretty far, all the way to 5th grade. When I was little, I really liked computers, and obviously that made me the most popular kid in school. I ended up learning in 5th grade. A friend of mine, his mom had a copy of Visual Basic. It's a programming language from Microsoft. And it was something new, and I remember it was really expensive too. It was like $500 for a copy, which I was in 5th grade. I didn't have $500. So I convinced him to steal it from his mom. And then I installed that, and I learned my way around this thing, and it was this really, really neat tool that you could basically build pretty much anything you wanted, and I had never really thought of that. I was just browsing websites and learning how to install software, and I was the guy my parents called when I had to fix the stereo when their friends came over. But now I was actually building stuff, and it was actually really, really neat because all the simple things sort of came together. I realized that I could actually put all of these things together and build new stuff, which is even cooler. So I remember thinking, great, now I know how to do this, but I don't have anything to build. So I had this great tool to build stuff, but nothing to build it with it. So yes, just in time. So this is from The Net. I was watching the movie The Net with Sandra Bullock, and I saw this on the screen, and I was thinking, all right, that looks pretty easy to build. Why don't I just try building that? And so I did. I cloned this screen right here, and it's just the login in the movie where you type in your password, and then there's a little pi symbol down there that you can't really see, and the idea was it was this conspiracy about you could backdoor into anything. And it was a fun movie for us geeks back then. But I remember thinking, hey, why don't I try building this? And so I did. And I remember thinking, wow, I did this in an afternoon, and I'm 11 years old, and they paid somebody to do this. So maybe there's something cool to be done here if I could do the same thing that some professionals could do. So we had a whole lot of failed ideas, like I said, and then I had a lot of failed ideas myself. We all tried to clone Facebook. I think you did that too, yeah. Mine didn't work nearly as well, though. So, and then I tried some real estate software, and I basically played around with a whole bunch of ideas, and they all just sort of tanked. And then we joined up, and we started failing together, which was kind of cool. There was a bunch of us, and we decided we're just going to keep trying ideas till one works. And so, like I said, there was the video ad thing, and the social network thing, and the optimizing thing, and finally we found that we could just buy ads. And so I want to just go through, we had this dedication, this extraordinary level of dedication, and basically what was really neat is that we didn't care if we fell flat on our faces, and we did a few times, but now we're standing up, which is good. So anyway, we did that whole thing, and we were acquired by Google, and that was great. Fun times. guess. But, so I want to say, it might sound like from what I just said that we knew what we were doing, and we had no idea. This is totally true. Everyone, even my mom, thinks it was like that. She has no idea. They just don't even understand what I do still. But it really did look a lot like that, except I think there was a dip where we went like back in time, and it was just terrible. So it does look like that. But we were coming up with new ideas all the time, and then they didn't work, and so we'd scrap them and start new ones. We would go and pitch clients and say, would you pay for this? And they said, no, what the hell, get out of my office. And then in the tech world, like they don't teach you in school how to build a giant advertising platform. They just say, here's like a linked list, and they give you the basics. It's, it's on you to come up with the neat stuff until you get into grad school classes, but who has time for that? So they don't teach you how to build production systems. So, this is a lot like it is. You have to figure everything out and go from there. And so, I don't think there's a secret recipe for success, but I do want to briefly mention a few of the things that I think made a huge difference, that if we hadn't done them, we probably would have been in really big trouble. So there's a couple of things. The first one is dedication. I think that there's a slide. Yeah, so that's me. That was the day I moved into the office. That's my suitcase. We had a bunch of people, and I think everybody understands clearly to start a company you need to have some level of dedication, but I don't think everybody gets just how dedicated we really were and how helpful it was. We stopped going to class. It was 16-hour days, 7 days a week. There was just all-nighters before client demos where we would, have to build the thing that we were going to sell them. It didn't actually work, but it looked like it did, so we would sell that. And I'm not sure if that's healthy. We were sort of just all living at the office. I wasn't the only one. We were living at the office, and again, I'm not sure if that was a healthy thing to do, but it did help a lot. So, and you can see if you think about the time where I had a girlfriend, it was like here through college, then company, and that stopped, and then acquired by Google, and now it's back to girlfriend. So that worked out. So part of the reason why we were all so dedicated, I might make it sound like it was this terrible thing with that suitcase and everything, but we had a really fun work environment. But before I do, that was where we lived. Those are air mattresses, and I'm a little ashamed to show this, so hopefully nobody's thinking. That's a ladder. I don't really know why that was there. And that was our conference room. That's an air mattress there. And then later in the day, clearly we were doing real work, and then we would go back and put the air mattress back. Anyway, so the dedication piece I think is incredibly important. The fun work environment was also kind of important. We had a lot of whiteboard space. We could do everything. These were all over the walls. So if we were walking back from the kitchen and we had an idea, we would just start writing it on the board. And we could get things out on paper really, really quickly. It was this amazing thing. We had a food budget. We spent a whole lot of money on beers and drinks and candy, and I think I have pictures. That's pizza. That was our kitchen. But that's a drink order. So when we raised venture funding initially, I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but when we raised it, we told them we're going to spend this much money on food, and they laughed at us, and then we said, no, really, and that's what came out of it. And those are more beers. Let's see. Oh, and so the reason that we had this, there's this thing that programmers, I don't know if there's any here, they don't usually go to conferences. But there's this thing called the Ballmer Peak, and the idea there is we had all this beer all over the place, and the general idea was there's this idea of when you drink a certain amount, you have this superhuman programming ability, and so that's actually the equation, and it looks like that. So you see it starts out with normal ability, and then as you drink more, it goes here, and then when you get to, it's about 0.129 blood alcohol, it's right there. That's about 4 beers for me. You have to measure it for science. So, we had very comfy chairs. We had a couch in the living room. We had those air mattresses weren't very comfy, but they were there. And then basically it was like a home outside of home. And a lot of people, even the guys who weren't living at the office, it really wasn't uncommon for us to spend 10, 12 hours in the office and then go home. Lunch was there. You could have dinner with the guys. It was a great time. It was a lot like, kind of, I assume, like college. I was down there the whole time. So the last thing, which I think is the most important, is being able to learn. I don't know if this is yeah, right. So we had a lot of people who were just really great learners, and that was why our team was so great, I think. We had people who they went to class occasionally, and they would take what they could from that. But they spent most of their time, when we say working at the office, it's really trying to figure out something that nobody's really tried to do before, so you have to learn how to do it. It's something that we had to build. We had to know exactly, like, the fundamentals don't always connect. You have to figure out how to tie the wires together. So we had these really great people who just loved learning. And so we learned by doing. We didn't go to get certifications. We didn't obviously go to class. We learned by doing stuff and then having it fail horribly. And the worst actually is when it fails a little bit, because then you're stuck with it forever. And it doesn't. You want things to fall flat on their face right away in technology, because otherwise you sort of hobble along, which is, I guess, what we're doing now. We did the bare minimum to get it as fast as possible out in the world. So anyway, so the idea here is, I mean, that's Richard Branson. He said it's got to be true. And he didn't go to college either, I think, so great. So all the things that I'm talking about here are obviously valuable when you get started, but when you're already moving. But what if you haven't started anything yet? You're just somebody who's at home, like we were in college. And the first bit where I was not with these other people, I was just me trying things. And I think that there's this sort of stigma that you need tons of venture funding, you need expensive software, you need a fancy degree from Harvard or Stanford or MIT or Penn, I guess. But basically, all the information and all the tools that you could possibly need are absolutely free. And I think that's kind of amazing. Like, you don't really realize that people are building things and then giving them away for free. Half of the world is running on Linux. It's an operating system that is absolutely free. So I read an article recently which was pretty interesting, and it was about a company in Rwanda. And they were looking to hire interns. They wanted to get a bunch of interns from university, and they wanted them to work on small tasks, nothing amazing, but small tasks. And they were shocked to find out that all of these students at university had actually learned very, very little from their classes. They'd been in school for 3 years, and they came in, and most of them copied and plagiarized the answers, and the rest basically just didn't have the answer. And it's kind of really, really depressing when you think about it, that these kids have gone to school for 3 years, they've paid all this money to go to school for 3 years, and they come out with pretty much nothing. Like, these are the kind of people who would come in our door, and we'd quiz them on stuff, and then we'd send them right back out. So the article was really neat, though, because it compared this to, it was a neat comparison to swimming. They said, imagine that you want to go in a university degree and you want to study swimming. And you go to the school and you spend 3 years studying currents and how swimming is done around the world and the different strokes you can do in bodies of water and all this. And then the professors tell you, don't worry, I have the same degree, I did all the same coursework, so when you leave here, don't worry, it'll be fine. So you graduate, you get your degree in swimming, then you go to the beach and you drown. It's clearly not fun. You've learned a lot about swimming, but you've never learned how to swim. And what they were seeing here in Rwanda was a very similar situation. And I think this is the same in universities in America and elsewhere as well. And because we tried to hire a lot of people who were in this same boat, that they didn't have a whole lot of experience with doing. They had a lot of experience with how to, and how, like, what things look like. There was no concrete experience. And so it's a really interesting thing, and I don't think it's uncommon in developing countries. But what was most interesting about the article actually was the solution the guy proposed. They said that in Rwanda they should probably copy what they're doing in Kenya, for example. But I heard a saying from a friend, I guess, I forget exactly where, but the saying was, if you're trying to ask somebody how to learn how to program, you're already doing it wrong. I think there's a slide, hold on. Yeah, so if you need to, Google will do it for you. If you need to learn how to program, they can figure that out. If they can do that, then I'm pretty sure that they can answer the question, how do I learn how to program? It's time that search engines are just, they're amazing now. They can point you in tons of different directions. They can do tons of amazing things, and you can just get started on your own. You don't need anybody. Just get going. And above all, there's other people who, they don't want to help you when you're very early on, when you're pointed in this direction of, I think I want to learn how to program, what do I do? But if you have a specific question and you ask it online, there's sites everywhere that are dedicated to just this. There's Quora, there's Stack Overflow, just tons of things that help you find information when you have a specific problem. And engineers love to answer people's specific problems. I don't know what it is, we just love doing it. So I really think that it would be neat to see if Jamaica treated this the way that we treated our startup. We just kept trying ideas until one worked. This one's really easy to try. Find some university students, give them laptops and see what happens. They can buy their own maybe, who knows. But the idea is it would be really, really cool to see what would happen if this was more of a self-service education. Go just figure out what you're doing, try to do it, and it shouldn't be that much trouble, and if it doesn't work, you have a laptop. So that's always good. But lastly, it's really neat to think that software is something in a world that's virtual. If people, your clients, for example, we were in Philadelphia and our clients were elsewhere, right? So it didn't matter that we were elsewhere. We sold software. There was no shipping. There was no complication about getting it to the other person. Occasionally we had to fly out for a meeting or something, but for the most part, all we did was talk to people online, and emailed people, cold emailed them, just said, hey, I'm a university student. I have an idea that I'd like to work on. You want to help me? And they'll tell you. Everybody loves to talk about what's wrong with their job and why it's inefficient, and it's something that you can just capitalize on. If you build software, they won't care if it's from Jamaica or Rwanda or wherever else. If it speaks for itself and is good, you'll be able to compete with everybody else who's all over Europe or all over America. So it's something that's pretty neat. So I think that it's time to probably just get to work. Yeah, that's all. Thanks.